Hey everybody, this is Merlini from MerliniDota. I'm going to do a brief video on my thoughts about Dota 6.78. It just came out today, only for Dota 1 though. The parity update for Dota 2 has not been released yet, should be probably another week or two. So I want to try and keep this pretty short, around 10 to 15 minutes. If you want to see the actual changelog, please visit the website on the bottom right, playdota.com/changelog/6.78. And here's a quick overview of what's in 6.78. There's two new heroes, one strength, one intelligence. Captain's mode has been changed slightly. There's many top tier heroes that have been nerfed. There's buffs to weaker heroes, Bottle Crow nerf, Armlet Bear nerf, and BKB nerf. Those are the significant ones, and that's just a brief summary of what's in 6.78. The two new heroes, the first one is Kaolin. He has a new mechanic. He has like a fifth skill, which is a rock, and it respawns like every 25 seconds, and you can use these rocks to augment your abilities. I think it's pretty cool that he has this unique concept. He seems pretty difficult to play. He can do a little bit of everything, it seems. Again, haven't really played him too much. I did try him out in Warcraft 3, but didn't get to actually play against opponents with him. And the other hero is an Oracle. He's a unique support in the sense that he can manipulate a lot of conditions. He can heal people, he can debuff people, he can purge, he can buff, debuff, and his ultimate seems really strong. It seems like an imbalanced shallow grave. That's just my take on it. Also seems like he has a pretty high skill cap. And one of his skills kind of reminds me of the new Medusa's Stone Gaze that has been reworked. So on to the next slide, which is CM and gameplay changes. So the bans have changed from 2 in the first phase, 3 in the second phase, to 2-2-1, and the picks has changed from 3 in the first phase, 2 in the second phase, to 2-2-1. If you want a more detailed like time breakdown, you can visit the changelog on Get Dota. There's less time overall, slightly, but there's actually a little bit more reserve time. Not actually sure why this was changed, but it's there. And added to Captain's mode, Centaur War Chief, which is most relevant for Dota 2 because the other two, Ember Spirit and Legion Commander, aren't actually in Dota 2 yet. And removed from CM because they received significant overhauls were Huskar and Medusa. And the significant gameplay changes in 6.78 are Buybacks Nerved. Buyback is nerfed from 5-minute cooldown to 6-minute cooldown. This is actually really big. And 1 minute might not seem that big of a difference, but it may end some of the stalemates that we see in competitive Dota a little bit earlier. Deny range has been nerfed. It has been increased from 1,000 to 1,200, or denies have been nerfed, the range has been increased. So that should help out some of the offlane heroes that tend to get zoned out. And there's slight goal changes for ending spree and team killing a tower. Those are very minor though. In terms of competitive hero nerfs, first off for the key, just look on the bottom middle of the screen. Red exclamation means big nerf in my eyes, and green star means minor nerf. So Batrider is the first of these heroes. There's a Firefly Vision nerf as well as a Flame Break mana increase. So I think he's still going to be a top tier pick, but means he has a little bit less lane control, and he won't be the Gank King and the Roshan King, at least not as much as before. Clockwork, his cogs no longer affect magic immune units, which buffs Nix, but Nix has actually been nerfed a little bit. Nix is the life stealer, and it buffs BKB a little bit, but again, BKB has also been nerfed. So Clockwork, not as strong as a pick as before, but still pretty good. Dark Seer, very minor nerf. I think a 2-second increase to vacuum cooldown. He's received like slight nerfs, but he's still seen playing competitive a lot. Gyrocopter, this is a pretty big one. Flat Cannon, cooldown increase from 20 seconds to 30 seconds. So that means you'll be able to get your first volley off for Flat Cannon for that 6-second 1000 AoE volley. But for the second one, you're going to have to wait a long time. Most of the fights will be over. It won't really hurt his burst in the first volley, though. And some people think that it won't make that big of a difference, but I think that's a pretty big difference. It'll hurt his ancient killing abilities a lot, too. And that's 75% uptime to 50% uptime, which is pretty big. IO/Wisp, his overcharge upkeep has been increased a little bit by like 1% or something, but his spirits no longer give vision unless they actually come in contact with the hero, which is actually really big. Vision is something that's underrated a lot by the public players. Competitive players know how important vision is on certain skills, and that is actually one of the broken parts about Wisp, but I think he's still pretty powerful. Keep it alight. I think he just got like a base strength decreased, very minor nerf. Lifestealer, his open wounds has been, his range has been, I think, decreased to 200, 300, 400, 500 instead of a flat 600 at all levels. This will mitigate some of his early aggression, but I still think he'll be a top tier pick. Lone Druid, this is a really big one. So his armlet, attack speed, no longer works on the bear. The health drain also now works on the bear, and the bounty on his bear has been increased from 100 to 300, so tripled. So that's actually pretty big nerf, but I think the real big one is, again, the armlet. But we have seen Lone Druid in competitive a lot with Radiance, and especially with Radiance getting buffed, I expect to see more of that return, but there's always still the Maelstrom AC build that has been pretty popular, as well as Basher. So although it is a big nerf to Armlet Bear, it's still not that big of a nerf to Bear in general. Magnus, I think just some small damage nerf to his reverse polarity, makes him a little bit less bursty, and just a little bit more less ridiculous of a hero overall. Nix Assassin, minor nerf. It was like his mana burn used to cost 130, 120, 110, 100. Now it's a flat 100, but the mana burn that it does is a little bit decreased from 5x to 3.5, 4, 4.5 to 5x. So it's like roughly 2/3 of mana burn at level 1 for 2/3 of mana cost. It seems rather minor to me, and although it is sometimes a pretty big deal if he is picked in triple lanes, I still expect to see him in play a fair amount. Shadow Demon, similar to the IO/Wisp nerf, Shadow Demon's Shadow Poison actually no longer gives vision to debuff targets. That means if you still cast it, you can see it, but if they are afflicted by Shadow Poison, you won't be able to see them anymore. This is actually a really big change. I think it will decrease his popularity a lot. He's actually one of my favorite supports along with Rubik. He also got a base intelligence nerf. On a side note, there's two heroes that actually got buffed that has seen some competitive play. I think there are a couple others, but these are the ones that jumped out to me. DK, I think is level 2 ultimate, got a little bit of buff, and Tree Leech Seed minor buff. These are all pretty small though. So what about heroes that aren't in competitive, or they may actually go into competitive soon? So these are the ones that may rise from obscurity. The left side are the ones that received more significant nerfs, most notably Bloodseeker and Huskard. These two heroes I consider like the dumpiest of the dump, just like absolute crap. And people ask me what I thought the worst two heroes were, and that would be them. Actually, they asked me what the worst hero was, and I would always put both of them together just because I think they're that bad. But they've received both some significant changes, although Huskar's taken out of CM just due to the significance of his change. Broodmother, slight buffs, but he may rise from obscurity. Goblin Shredder actually got like a all-around buff. I think his chakra mana cost got decreased, the travel range a little bit increased, he's a little bit more tanky, and he has more mana, so that's pretty significant. So we may see some variety in our offlaners. Kunkka, slight damage buff. Ursa Warrior, slight buff to his Fury Swipes. I think that these heroes are like already starting to rise, Kunkka and Ursa Warrior, and we may see even more. Notables, these are all minor buffs to all these heroes. Death Prophet, Earthshaker, Marana, also known as Potom, Naga Siren, Sand King, Tidehunter, Vengeful Spirit, and Witch Doctor. All these heroes had their prime in competitive at one time or another. Death Prophet more early than the rest of them, and Naga and Tidehunter a little bit later than the rest of them, but most of these stunners just were wildly popular at one point, and I think that they may see competitive play again, although I think that's a little bit wishful thinking. I like Death Prophet a lot, I like Naga Siren a lot, I like Tidehunter a lot, but sometimes they just can't deal with some of the extremely popular heroes, such as Snakes and Gyrocopter and the such. But maybe with BKB nerf, we shall see. So item changes. The two big item changes that are in big font, BKB nerfed. From, it used to have 10 all the way down to 5 second if you used it 6 times, and now it has a 6 level of decrease. So 4 second duration with 50-second cooldown, that is a pretty big nerf. 4 second of BKB is like almost even why bother. That's pretty big. Bottle Crow nerfed. Empty Bottle causes couriers to move 30% slower, and courier speed burst reduced from 100% to 50% move speed. And this is pretty significant as well. I was griping a little bit about it in one of my previous mailbags, and hopefully we'll see less Bottle Crow, which hopefully will lead to more increased hero variety and less passive play in middle. Observer Ward's initial stock now at 1 instead of 2. These are all just slight changes. Sentry Ward's AoE decreased a little bit. I think that Iceberg wants people to buy Dust more because Dust now stacks and it actually slows heroes with invisibility buff on them by 10%. And Gem is nerfed. People were just getting gems in 5 mana way too early, apparently. They can no longer be destroyed, and they now cost 150 more. And there's also a lot of Aghanim Scepter changes. So, Ancient Apparition, Ice Blast now lasts like 17 seconds at all levels. CM, Freezing Field buffed a little bit. Doombringer is pretty significant, it seems. If you are within 550 range of the Doom target, the Doom duration doesn't decrease, which may seem like a big deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Enchantress, I think she gets like 25 more range from Impetus. Lion had a pretty big buff. It's from 40 seconds to 20 seconds at level 3 Finger Death. So hopefully this will see a rise of two position Lions, like the mid-roll Lion. I actually played that today. I like that role a lot, but it has not seen competitive play in a very long time. Omni Knight now has a global Guardian Angel that actually works on towers now. So it's similar to Living Armor. I guess those are the only two that affect towers in a positive way, which is pretty cool, I must admit. Cool concept, but will he actually be able to farm it and make a difference? Probably not, but we shall see. Necrolite, Aghanim's Scepter now disables buyback if people die under Reaper's Scythe. Seems like a pretty game-breaking change, but how often do we see Necrolite, and how often do Necrolites see Scepter? Maybe a little bit more now, but I think it'll still be a while until we see that brought into play. But again, hopefully it will end some of these like late game stalemates with mass buybacks that we see sometimes. Panda, the ultimate little split thingies now get Drunken Brawler on all of them, so that should be a little bit more of a damage increase and make them a little bit more tanky. Shadow Shaman, damage increase in wards. Silencer, 1 second increased duration on all of them, all levels, and actually cast Curse of the Silent on all the heroes afflicted. I don't think that's a big deal. I play Silencer a lot too. I predicted that he was gonna see a lot of play in competitive as a 2 role, but it seems like a lot of Chinese teams have been experimenting with him as a like 4 or 5 role. He's decent, but is he gonna farm eggs in a competitive environment? Probably not. Other notable item changes: Blink Dagger, cooldown decreased. Bloodstone now has an active. You can pretty much just kill yourself, I guess, and heal your buddies, which is awesome. I think this item needs to see a lot more play. It used to be really popular, especially on Storm Spirit and Death Prophet, but not anymore. Force Staff, recipe cost decreased by 100. Lincoln Sphere, 20-second CD to 17-second CD. I actually like Lincoln Sphere a lot. I think it's a very good alternative in some situations to a Black King bar, and I actually got it on like, I think 2 out of 5 of my games today. I don't really like BKB that much. Well, first off, I'm not that good at using it, but regardless, I think BKB is a little bit too potent. It makes things a little bit too easy mode, I think. But with 4-second duration on Black King bar as well as a buff to Lincoln Sphere, maybe we'll see that more. But Lincoln Sphere is a little bit too expensive. It's like 50, 100 or something. That's pretty expensive for one survivability item. Radiance, 45 damage burn to 50-second damage burn. I get Radiance probably far more than any other streamers out there. I get it on Juggernaut, I get it on Spectre a lot, I get it on Bear a fair amount too. I think this item is pretty good. Is that the buff that it needs to see a comeback? Probably not. Shadow Blade, I think damage was decreased from 30 to 22. Still a good item though. Going back to the Ag Scepter, there were some that seemed like they'd be like really, really good. Like I think Windrunner, her Focus Fire was decreased to like 15 seconds, and like Orb effects no longer get mitigated by the damage reduction. I mean, a lot of times there are just way better alternatives. I think Jakiro can also get one too, and like makes more fire and makes them like burn faster too or something like that. But I mean, they're pretty good, but unless it's something like hugely wildly game breaking like Tiny, I don't really expect any of these heroes to get a lot more. Maybe Omni Knight and Necrolite, maybe, but less so than Omni Knight. So again, I wouldn't worry too much about these Aghanim Scepter changes. They're pretty good, but farming up that much money on some of these heroes like Crystal Maiden and Support Lion and Rasta and stuff is not very easy. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good patch. I always like the strong heroes getting nerfed and the weaker heroes getting buffed to equalize the pool a little bit. So I think IceRock has done a pretty good job in this patch, and hopefully we'll see more variety. I think in the item builds, like everybody just goes like Drums, Manta, BKB Daedalus. That's like, I see that all the time on heroes. Maybe like a little bit different if you're like an image-based hero, but still those items are just way too common. And I think those most of them were dealt with a little bit Daedalus recent nerf. Django / drums got nerfed a little bit in this one, and I hope to see more variety in competitive item builds and heroes in general. But thanks everybody for watching. If you like the videos that I make, you can follow me at MerliniDota.com. I also have Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all the same /MerliniDota. Thanks everybody for watching. Hopefully I'll make more videos soon.